recruiting on the weekends. So I was commuting back and forth every other weekend. But yeah, we relocated in the summer.
Did you like it there?
Loved it. Loved it. I loved it. My family loved it. I mean, I have four boys. It's a great place, to grow up with boys. Outdoor life is amazing. So,
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Cool. We'll get into that a little bit. Real quick, just to run
That's what
down
I
of
figured.
what Jimmy and I are trying to do here is, in essence, we're trying to create conversations with coaches like yourselves and programs like Millersville that are doing good things up on the rise and things that we just didn't hear from our guidance counselor or our own coaches when we were going through the recruiting process. And so we're just trying to create those conversations for our younger selves so that people know, athletes, parents know that there's a lot of four-year institutions or two-year institutions out there that if you're willing to put in the work and work hard, maybe you didn't reach your full potential in high school, that there are places and coaches that are willing to invest in you if you're willing to invest, and you can get a great education and go to some cool locations and get out of your bubble. We're big proponents of high school kids getting out of their bubble, even if it's only for 4 years, to go experience some other aspects of life in other parts of the country.
For sure. That was my big selling point in West Virginia.
I bet
It's
it's
not it's not
beautiful.
it's not Jersey. It's not Jersey.
That's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are excited for our guest. We're going belly to belly tonight. But before we get into that, real quick, the housekeeping. Make sure you follow the Airey Bros on socials, on YouTube. Give us a like. If you got any feedback, we'd love to hear your feedback in comments. Follow us on all your podcast platforms. And if you are looking for some coaching, ultra marathons, marathons, or even a couch to 5K, we've got plenty of programs over there at Black Sheep Endurance. Hit me up. I am more than happy to help you along the way on your journey to crush some of those goals. And even if you just have questions about training or nutrition, by all means, give me a holler and I will get you set up. All right, y'all, without further ado, we got a Jersey guy with us tonight, so we're excited. We get fired up for our Jersey wrestling over here. The Region 6 boys from 1512. We've got Jerry Boland joining us tonight. He is the head coach at Millersville University in Pennsylvania. He's currently leading the program, and last year they had a record 5 national qualifiers and its most dual meet wins since the 91-92 season. Coach Boland was inducted into the Lycoming College Athletics Hall of Fame in 2007, and in 1997 was an NCAA All-American at 118 pounds. Jimmy and I love those lightweights. He founded the Davis Elkins wrestling program in November 2018 and produced 10 NCAA qualifiers, the program's first All-American in just 3 seasons. He compiled 144 and 38 high school coaching record, winning 3 New Jersey state championships and earning 2 Burlington County Coach of the Year awards while coaching the New Jersey powerhouse Camden Catholic. Coach Boland, it is an honor and a pleasure. We do greatly appreciate your time. Welcome to Airey Bros Radio.
Thanks, guys. It's a pleasure to be on. I'm honored. So I appreciate the reach out here.
Absolutely. We're excited to get into it. But before we get into it, and before we get too far along, if you have anywhere you would like us to send parents, recruits, parents who might have questions, the floor is yours to hand out the socials or any other information about the school and the program.
Sure. I mean, my personal Instagram handle is at Coach J Boland, and our team Instagram account is at Ville Wrestling. And you can find us on Ville Wrestling on Facebook. I'm not much of a Facebook guy personally, but Instagram is definitely the best place to find me if we're going a social media route.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Now, Coach, one question we love to ask all of our New Jersey guests, and this is probably going to be the most important question we ask you all night. Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
I was going to interrupt and say, can I answer before you before you ask the question? Come on, I'm a South Jersey guy, and Birds are playing in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. What is it?
Pork
Pork
roll.
roll.
Pork roll. A pork roll all day.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think, yeah, Coach, you correct me if I'm wrong, you graduated from high school in '94. Is that correct?
I did. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
so
I was
we're
Region 7. I wrestled in Region 7.
okay. So you're a Region 7 guy. Jimmy and I were Region 6 guys. I graduated
Yep.
in '94 as well. I was a 103 pounder.
Okay. I was 103. I was 103 my freshman year.
Okay.
Um, I wrestled a short conference guy. Um, I wrestled a short conference. Dave Kretzmer from Jackson. I don't know if you remember that name.
Yep. Oh yeah. I
I
do.
beat him. I beat him for third place. In the third place match at Regions that year. So
Okay.
so I know he's a short conference guy. So
Yeah.
and then they did a little more of a shift. The short conference guys kind of went out for a while and they went all over to Region 6. But and then now they're all over the place back together again. So
And did you wrestle for Camden Catholic as well too?
I did.
You
I
did.
did. Yeah.
Okay.
I wrestled freshman, sophomore, and senior year. My junior year, I lived in California. That's another podcast.
Okay. Okay. So I guess I would love to know. Did you all have the robes when you were there?
We did not. We did not
Okay.
have the robes. So quick story on how that happened. I actually arrived at Camden Catholic before Gary Papa did. He'll tell you differently, but if you look at the timeline, I enrolled at Camden Catholic in 1990. And that was my freshman year in 1991, and then Coach Papa came over as an assistant coach um, in 91, 92, my sophomore year, and then my junior year, he assumed the head coaching duties at Camden Catholic, and that's the year I spent in California. So he didn't coach me directly. I mean, we communicated, we talked all the time, and then I moved back my senior year, and he was my coach my senior year.
Okay. Did you happen to ever lock horns or connect with Mike Sfera from Shawnee?
Never, no, no.
Never.
We were in the same bracket sometimes. Um, I didn't start wrestling until seventh grade, so like I didn't get the luxury of growing up through with Safair and Hurst and those guys like that. But I wrestled Justin Hurst in high school,
Okay.
um, but not Safair. So we have a lot of common opponents, Safair and I, but we never had head to head.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, we were on Team New Jersey together, so I took a couple beatings from that
He was a tough dude. He
summer
was a
up at
tough
Blair
dude.
Academy.
Yeah, he was very tough.
Yeah.
Coach, what year did you start coaching at Camden Catholic?
So I graduated college in 98, jumped right on board Coach Papa's staff in 98, 99. So I was an assistant coach there for um for 5 years. And then I went out and went on my own and was an assistant coach at Shawnee for a year. And then I took over at Cinnaminson for 4 years. I became the head coach at Cinnaminson for 4 years, and then I came back to Camden Catholic. So
Okay, so pardon my not being able to find the 1999 state finals today, but were you in the corner of Bill Heverly for the state finals
I
against
was,
Jeff
I
Beverly?
was, I
Yeah.
was, yeah.
So we like to do a little bit of icebreakers, but that's the icebreaker here. Obviously, you and Rich kind of made connections being in that class of 94, but Point Barrow only has one state champ, and you happen to be Matt's side for that match.
Yep, yeah, but I really had a nice little run that year, to get to the finals, and he just kind of ran out of gas. Either I don't know, got it, wanted a little more. I'm not saying Bill didn't want it, but that's what it comes down to at that point, and I was proud of Bill. We had a great tournament, and but Beverly came home with the gold.
Did he win it 2 years later?
So that was Billy's junior year. He did not. Booth did. Booth won it the
Okay.
next year. They were both seniors, and we had three state finalists that year. Booth, Heverly, and Frank Cornelli. Um, and Frank kind of made that run that Bill made the year before. Got to the state finals, but he it kind of came out of nowhere. But Frank didn't win it, and Hev lost to Billy Gibbs from Clearview.
Yeah, he was a stud.
It was a weird match. I think, Bill. I think Billy. I think Heverly out wrestled him. He just, there was a sequence, if I remember correctly, where he kind of stopped wrestling on the line or at the end of the period or something like that, and uh, and Gibbs capitalized, and that was a kind of difference in the match. But that was the year we had Camden Catholic got our Booth was our first state champ that year. So
Yeah, I was in middle school throughout that time, and that's when Camden Catholics, you guys were Slayers. In that '99, Stinson wrestled Terrence Clendenin in the state
Yep,
finals, but always
yep,
remember seeing the robes. You had Mike Booth. He was a stud 12-pounder. He wrestled
yep.
Matt Valente. So I always remember those guys coming up when I was coming up. And you mentioned Gibbs from Clearview. We were friends with Jeff Beverly. I worked with him. He was my manager for a little bit when I was living in New Jersey, and I always used to bust him and be like, "Man, you're lucky that Hibbs kid didn't see him because he was the killer the year before," and he'd always give me jabs. But we always like to make the world smaller here. But one of the first questions we like to ask our guests, all the coaches we have on, you mentioned starting wrestling in seventh grade. What was that origin story of why did you start wrestling and kind of get into college and being NCAA Division III All-American?
Um, well, my dad always wanted us to wrestle, and he when we moved to New Jersey, we found we lived in Washington Township, and he learned about the wrestling program there, and I was like, I'm not wrestling. I play basketball. I just I'm five I'm 5'1.5" right now. Like I was playing basketball, right? Um, and but I didn't want to wrestle. My younger brother, Jim, who's 3 years younger than me, he started wrestling, and then I watched him wrestle with one of his wrestling matches, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I get to fight somebody kind of like this, and not get in trouble for it. So the next year I took it up, and I learned pretty quickly.
And what was that kind of coaching intro after college? Did you know you were going to get right into coaching?
Um, I Yeah, I just fell in love with the sport right away. From seventh grade on, I wanted to wrestle every weekend. I knew I had to catch up. So I mean, we literally, I wrestled, like I said, I wrestled for Washington Township, and like, I don't know if you know some of these names like Dan Calhoun and Mike Sandelier,
Hmm.
um, the Fizzler brothers, the Walker brothers, like just guys with Aaron Taylor, you know, and we just, tournament after tournament, we just wrestled a lot, and just really fell in love with the sport. I always, uh, even at a young age, I liked giving back. I liked working out I liked going back and teaching the junior program and stuff like that. So I always knew I wanted to do that. From a career standpoint, I wanted to be a teacher because I think I knew it was the best route for me to be a head coach. I mean, for me to be a high school coach. But then when I started coaching high school, and I was pretty good friends with John Hangy from Ryder, and I always wanted to like do what he did. I was like, man, I could see myself doing that someday, working up to that elite level because it's so passionate and so competitive. Um, but unfortunately, my career took a little bit of a turn when I became an administrator, and it just became too much to run a school and run a wrestling program. So I stepped away from coaching for a few years, and I was officiating during that time. But yeah, I just got the itch again, and just the administrative part of education kind of was starting to get to me, starting to get the worst out of me. Like that's not why I got into education, and so I talked to Hangy, I talked to Scott Goodale, Rutgers, just guys I reached out to that I knew in the college ranks, and I asked those guys if is it too late? Do you think I could still, you know, assume a career? And they're like, yeah, man, get after it. And between those two guys and Coach Papa, they kind of made some connections for me, um, and everything ended up where it was.
Coach, when did when you were an administrator, were you a vice principal, assistant principal, principal? What was the role there? And
I was a school principal, like a head principal. Yeah. Mhm.
okay.
Yep. For 9 years.
And at any point were you, because I know in New Jersey, administrators usually aren't allowed to coach. Down here in South Carolina, it's a little bit different. So sometimes athletic directors or vice principals or principals are still running the show. Was that an option at all, or did you have to
It
make that decision?
No, it was my own decision. I was an adjunct. I was an adjunct coach my entire coaching career. When I was at Cinnaminson, I never taught at Cinnaminson. When I was at Camden Catholic, I never taught at Camden Catholic. Um, so I was used to being not in the building.
Mm.
And when I became an administrator, uh, my love for wrestling, I cared about it too much to not be able to give 100%. I just wasn't able to give 100% to Camden, especially to a program of that caliber. It wasn't fair. Because I had my job, and my job, that really paid the bills was I was responsible for a school building, right? So, that was my primary responsibility, and I just couldn't give 100% there and then 100% to Camden Catholic, and it just wasn't fair. So, would both places have allowed me to do it? They would have, but it just wasn't fair.
And yeah, we always talk about running a wrestling program, running a college program. The term CEO role comes
Mhm.
up often, and I would imagine if you're running a school, you're kind of taking that CEO approach as well to running a school building. Did that administrative work as a principal, did that help when you got to West Virginia at Davis and Elkins?
I mean, 100%. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's not even it's not even like a question. I think it actually helped me get that job. Like, I think not only my wrestling pedigree, but the athletic, and I knew this was the case, like being so like late in my career. I was 40, I was 43 at the time, and I had no college coaching experience, and it was going to take me finding the right athletic director, um, that believed in my story and my skill set, to give me that opportunity. And that's what it came down to there. I mean, I was a finalist for a few other positions, and I had an AD actually tell me, excuse me, like he wanted to hire me, but he couldn't give he couldn't present to his president a guy with no coaching experience, and because I guess I knocked the interview out of the park, and he believed in my vision, but he had another guy that had college coaching experience, and that's the route they went. Davis and Elkins, different story. This guy, believed in what I was doing.
Did you go through a bunch of interviews before you got to the Davis and Elkins position?
There were three. There were
Yeah.
three. Yeah. So we can. It's okay. I don't want to like throw any other schools on the bus and say they made a mistake, but
No, no. I'm just curious because I always I still look at college positions and stuff like that,
Yep.
and I'm like I said, we're the same age, so it's like,
Yeah.
and I have a very small amount of college coaching at my alma mater at Monmouth University, cross country and track and field. But I always like, man, someone might take a chance on me. I've got a pretty good resume, so it's
Yeah.
reassuring to hear that you put your nose to the grindstone and made it happen.
It really is, man. It's a life lesson that I kind of hope like even my athletes like see that story and be like, I can if I want something, I can go get it. You know what I mean? It's all about, believing in yourself, and believing in who you are, and like selling who you are in a genuine manner. Like, you can't go out and try to sell something that you can't deliver, because then once you're on the spot, that's not what they hired, or at least what they thought they hired. And I believed in who I was. I believed in my vision, and I followed through with it when I got hired. And um, we had success at Davis and Elkins, and we're finding success here at Millersville.
Coach, you bring up that being administrator for 9 years, towards the end there was kind of getting to you, and you wanted to you didn't know if it was too late to get in on the college scene of things, but you said it was paying the bills. We know being an administrator pays the bills. Our mother was a principal for 25 plus years, so we know it's a good paying job. We also know that, starting a program division two, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it might not be as much as that administrator position, and you gotta relocate the family. Did you have to weigh and measure those, or given that opportunity, you knew you were gonna go all in on the wrestling and you were gonna take it for all it was worth?
Well, no, 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 no. There's a lot we had to weigh out. I mean, first of all, like I said, I have four boys. I have a wife. I mean, we're a very tight family. Um, you know, without support, from my wife, there was no way this could be done. Like, she was a teacher at Lenape. She had 19 years in the New Jersey education system. Um, so she gave up a lot, to do this, and just uproot our family and move to the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and start a wrestling program from nothing, and with no college coaching experience, right? Like, there could have been we could have just totally failed. I mean, I don't know how to fail. I just, if something doesn't go right, I'm gonna rebound and learn from it. But like, you know, that that was a huge risk in her eyes. You know what I mean? Like I knew I was going to be successful. I believed in it. Like I could have went myself and been fine, which I would have never done. But she had to believe in it, and she did, and my boys did too. I mean, you know, not not one of my four boys said no, we don't want to go. They had their friends. They were successful in sports. They loved their schools, and they never said no, I don't want to go. Like they thought it was really cool. They thought it was really cool that their dad was going to coach college wrestling. You know what I mean? Like because they all wrestle. So um, they took a chance and went out there, and then they made friends there, and they were happy there. And then all of a sudden, Millersville thing comes up, and it's like, hey, we're gonna do this again. You know what I mean? It's a lot on a family, and you know, I'm extremely blessed to have a family to be so supportive of that.
And you brought up before that some of the other college didn't want to take a chance because you didn't have that college coaching experience. But like Rich said, that we know that being an administrator, you're going to be able to run a business, you're going to be able to run a program. What aspects of being a principal do you take with you in running a team?
Um, I think the most important one is the ability to build relationships with people. Being a principal, yeah, I was a principal in an elementary school, but I still managed 65 to 70 adults. You know what I mean? And I evaluated them and I built relationships with them. I built trust with them. So like for me to for me to manage a college student is not that much different. My goal is to get them to that career, not that, where I was managing, you know, whether it's a teacher or not. They could be a teacher, a police officer in the business world. You know, I'm trying to get them to that point where I was, like I said, where I was managing adults. So I think like that part of it is huge. You know what I mean? Just being able to understand people and understand. And the other thing with education is when you look at the children's side of it and the student side of it is the diversity of the students. Like every student's different. Every student comes from a different background. Every student has their own, you don't know what they're going home to every day, or maybe you do, right? Um, and college students are the same way. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a cookie cutter system when it comes to discipline. Like somebody might, if somebody's late for practice, let me find out why they were late. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, well, let's give them 100 sprints because they were late to practice. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they had a bad phone call with their mom. Maybe who knows? Um, so knowing that everybody's different, everybody comes from different places. Everybody's, has their own issues they're dealing with. I think that's, those two things are what was most critical. Yeah, the managing the budget thing is big, and the organizational skills, like those things are big. But I think that just having good relationships with people is takes you really far in this sport.
And obviously, being the head coach at Canada Catholic, we were talking about how much history is there and how wrestle and rich that program is. But you said taking somewhat like 9 years off there to be an administrator. Do you feel like coming back with that administration experience that made you a better coach?
It did. It did because let's I'm not doing anything different than someone my age right now is doing with this sport because it's not the same as it was 20 years ago. So like, I can't coach the style that I wrestled. You know what I mean? It's just not the same. Just like whoever wrestled with me in college in that era is doing the same things that I'm doing. They're learning, they're picking up new things, they're watching film. This is how wrestling is now. So I'm not doing anything different than they're doing. I just took time off. You know what I mean? But in the meantime, I acquired a skill set that they don't have. You know what I mean? They don't have that. So I use that to my advantage.
And in that time, the best way to scratch the wrestling itch you thought was to get into officiating.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody wrote an article. I can't remember where the article was. Um, man, I have it saved. I have it saved on my phone somewhere. But somebody wrote an article on the internet, and when they did an introduction of our program, like a bunch of all the new programs in Division 2 that year, and it might have been Open Mat. I think it was Open Mat, and they had our program, and they're like, and they went over my background. They said he was a head coach, and then then he was an official, and he said, it makes me wonder if someone of that caliber, some of that caliber would argue with himself in the mirror every day. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty funny way to look at it. So.
Did you take away some learnings from that in terms of being on the other end of maybe getting the
Oh,
business given to you?
well, it's back and forth and back again. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
when I was a coach, eh, official will tell you I was one of the worst. I was one of the worst. But I also knew the rule book front and back. Like so, not only was I hard on officials, I knew what I was talking about. You know what I mean? So like you put those two things together, and people, a lot of officials didn't want to ref my matches. So then when I became an official, I had you know I had a respect for the coaching side of it. You know what I mean? So I would listen to coaches, and I see your side, but it's still my call or whatever. Now that I'm back on the other side, I even have a better perspective because while I have to fight for my guys, I'm 100% less biased than I was when I was coaching high school. Like I've had multiple officials at this level tell me, when you come to the table and talk about something, like it's legit. Like we really have to think about it because and most of these guys know I was an official, so I have that respect already. And like at nationals last year, uh, I was 3 for 3 on challenge. Threw the brick 3 times and won all 3 challenges last year. And I would have been 4 for 4. I stepped to the edge of the mat and I said to the ref, I said, "You guys should look at that. I have one of these, but I win. I win. You guys should look at that." And they're like, "Yeah, we'll look at that, coach." They looked at it and they changed the call. And they just looked over at me and shook their head. And so yeah, like I'm not saying right all the time. I lost the challenge earlier this year, um, but it does help you. It does help. It does help having that background, and and knowing that like I got to fight for my guys, but I know the call when the call's there.
Yeah. A nice little feather in your cap, 3 for 3.
It was like when I got the third one, I'll never forget what ref looked over. He's like, "Man, coach, you're hot, man." And I was like, "Hey, man, sometimes when you're on, you're on."
Going
So,
back home, going to Atlantic City.
mm, yeah, right.
Coach, so you were in the process, you were building a program, like Rich said at the beginning of the podcast, did a good job getting a bunch of guys through the nationals, and then the opportunity at Millersville comes up, and Millersville used to be a Division I program. It's had a program for a while. How have you kind of had to change what you were doing as far as what the goals were, and how's it looking since you've been at Millersville?
Um, so I guess are you talking about like how did I handle that transition going
The
from
transition and you're building a program and then you're taking over a program
program
that's
that's
established.
established. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, so I'm going from a program with zero alumni, right? Zero. And, our first alum left when I left, you know what I mean? Like, Noah Tar was our first All-American, and he graduates, and I leave. So I don't have any interaction with any alumni at Davis and Elkins. And then I go to Millersville, and there's such a rich alumni there, and um, so that was one of the biggest challenges. Excuse me, was the alumni piece, um, but also going into a program where they had a coach. There were 24 guys on the roster already, 25 guys that had a coach that you know so now I have to go in, and again, here's where that building relationships with people, like and understanding everybody's background. I know they're going through a critical change in their lives. They went to college, um, and now it's going to look different than it was when they got there, and I have to be mindful of that. So there had to be a lot of give and take. Like I had a vision, I had a plan, um, but there were times where I had to like take a step back and say, all right, is this really the hill I want to die on right now? I can live with this guy doing this for X amount of days or whatever, but I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. Um, so I just had to do a lot of that. I do a lot of like you know give and take. Think about again, how hard do I want to fight this battle? And I really think I established that. I think I built good relationships with all the guys on the team. And I guess getting 5 guys in nationals last year, and all 5 of them were guys that were there, like were guys that I had to have buy into what we're doing, and so that was pretty exciting. I was proud of, I was excited for them and proud of them.
And you're 2 years at Millersville now, or
This is
on
my
their third
third.
year?
This is my third year. Yeah.
So do you feel like you kind of have to fight those battles now, or do you think the guys are bought in at this point?
No, no, they're bought in at this point, and the battles I fight are just just making them be their best every day, trying to get everything I can out of them so they can, you know, be at a hold themselves to a high standard in everything that they do every day. And, you know, that's hard for a college kid because they're going through a lot. They have class, they have, they're on their own. They're trying to figure out how to be independent. And, I have this expectation of them just being the best they can be in all areas of life. So again, I have to, if I see somebody slipping in an area, I have to really, talk to them, think about like what they're going through before I come down on them and say, you're not doing the best you can. You know what I mean?
So you talk about that balancing act of school, life, wrestling. When we were coming up, wrestling was everything for me. It was the only thing I cared about. Everything else took a backside. Now, because of that, it took me 12 years to get through college. And as an older man, I love talking to coaches like you because hey, there's a lot going on. So how do you what's your philosophy towards that as far as, hey, yeah, I want to get all Americans, but at the same time, I rather see you get a degree and then a job out of college.
Well, I think it all kind of runs together, to be honest with you. You talk about like if you come into college thinking, you're going to a wrestling institution and it's the 13th grade, you're just not going to make it, you know? And a lot of that is just being transparent from the beginning, from the recruiting process. Like most of the guys that come in and their parents, when they send them off, know what they're getting. Like I'm very, very transparent in the recruiting process, talking about, you know, there's 4 priorities that if you don't have, we have 4 priorities, and you ask any one of my guys, they'll tell you family, faith, school, wrestling. They're 4 priorities of our program. If if anything interferes with any of them, you're just not going to make it. I mean, yeah, you need to have a social life. You need to have that stuff has to happen, but it can't interfere with, your family, faith, school, wrestling, and whatever, wherever you are in your life, if you're with your family, that's your number one priority. If you're with, if you're in class, I don't want you to think about wrestling, but if you're at practice, you shouldn't be thinking about school. You shouldn't be thinking about anything else but wrestling. You know what I mean? So, those 4 channels of life have to be what you're dialing into at the time. So, and I think that's important for them to understand because then they have to get their time management down and how are they gonna navigate this? How are they gonna get their study hours in? How are they gonna get their extra workouts in? How are they gonna get their downtime in? The things that they love to do. There has to be something they love to do outside of wrestling that kind of helps them decompress a little bit. So, I sit down with all the freshmen first week of classes and I put them on a time management plan and it's color coded and it's and then there's all this white space. It's all their free time and then that's when they start plotting in their study hours and their extra workouts and stuff like that. It's just all about developing those positive habits and living that championship lifestyle, and they're all those little pieces all come together.
Coach, do you find in 2025 that recruits and college students are a little bit more locked in that sort of student athlete and maybe putting social aspects to a certain extent on the backseat as opposed to maybe when we were college kids?
I do.
Yeah.
100%, 100%, I do. Um, in
Yeah.
general. Do I talk to a kid or do I see a kid every once in a while that I'm thinking, all right, this kid, you know, he wants to come here for the wrong reasons. Um, and I'm not saying my guys don't have a social life, they
Yeah.
do. I'm sure they,
You're saying
um,
social in air quotes.
but yeah, right. Yeah. Um, but I do think that they have those priorities. I do believe that they've bought into that together because their goals are the same as mine. They all want to be like we say right from the beginning, like, you don't have to write these goals down. If you're not in this room to be an All-American, if you're not in this room to be a national champ, you're just in the wrong room. So like let's talk about our daily goals. Let's talk about everything we're gonna do to get to that level, right? Because again, if you're not in this room for those reasons, then there's the door. You're not in the right program. So, and that part's paying off because we've developed a lot of depth in our program, and guys are, we have 30 guys coming to practice every day that work hard and put their nose to the grindstone and really want to get the best out of themselves and each other.
And talking about that depth and those 30 guys, there's quite a few New Jersey names on that roster. You are in Pennsylvania. Everyone knows the rich tradition and history of Pennsylvania wrestling. New Jersey's always kind of knocking on that door. Is there some interstate rivalries between the two camps on the mats in the room?
Yep, yep, absolutely. And it always happens in the recruiting process too, because like if I have a Jersey guy on campus and I introduce you to one of my guys, it's a PA guy, and they go, of course, coach is bringing in another Jersey guy. You know what I mean? Like, and but it's not really like that. I mean, if you look at our roster, it's half it's half Jersey, half PA, and then we got a Maryland kid, a couple Delaware kids, New York kid. But 90% of the roster is split between PA and Jersey, and if you fill your room with PA and Jersey state qualifiers, and then just some other great kids from some other states, you're gonna have a tough room.
Yeah, Coach, I was doing some research today and I saw that there was something like 40 something Division III schools that are in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania has the most college wrestling. Do you find it's hard to recruit in state because there's so many options?
It is. It's definitely hard, especially in Western PA. Because you got Pitt Johnstown out there, you got Gannon, plus you got Clarion, Edinburgh. You got there's so many schools out there. So yeah, it's hard. It's really hard, and that's why you know from a recruiting standpoint, like the communication piece up front is a huge seller to me. Like I'm not because there's so many kids out there, and because I know there's so many schools out there. Like if I don't get the sense a kid is interested, then I'm not gonna continue to like talk to him or whatever like that. I could tell within the first 30 seconds of a conversation or the first back and forth with a text. Okay, this kid's genuinely interested. We had a kid on campus today who just happened like he thought let me check out Millersville and because he was visiting another school and I mean I think like the kid absolutely loved what he saw. You know what I mean? Like it's just and I could tell that this kid really liked it here. He wanted to come here, and I honestly I'd be shocked if he doesn't come, but we'll see what happens. But like him and his dad were just like loved everything about the school and it, and so those are the kind of things you could pick up from the recruiting process. Those are the kind of things you could pick up from first couple conversations you have with the kids. So yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard. It's exhausting. It's actually exhausting. And at 49, I'm like, that's why I'm like, you know what? I don't have time. I can't do this. I mean, if this kid's not interested, there's somebody else out there. You know what I mean? Like, and it's Millers. I'm in a good spot because Millersville has a good name. From a campus standpoint, from an education standpoint, somebody knows somebody that went to Millersville and loved it, right? So, sometimes I just get guys that whose uncle went here and he wants his nephew to go here and I'll get an email from the uncle, you know what I mean? And so I'll reach out to the nephew and things like that happen. So yeah, it's definitely exhausting because there are a lot of schools.
So you bring up that recruit, he was on campus because it was in the way of where he was going and he loved what he saw. And you mentioned Millersville has a great reputation for education and the campus. That is one thing we like to highlight here on Airey Bros Radio. So what does the campus have to offer? And in terms of education, any kind of majors that Millersville has or educational experiences that they have that make them stand out?
I mean, we can start there. The one thing that's really cool about Millersville is the diversity of majors that they have. There's very few things you can't accomplish while you're here at Millersville, in terms of a career. Uh, One of the things that's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible to be. physical education teacher. For some reason, they have a really strong education program, but they don't offer physical education as a major. So like you have to like really tailor a program and then like maybe do like an extra year of grad school or two to come back and get that physical education degree. So you can come here, you can still become a physical education teacher. It's just going to take you a little longer. Um, but other than that, business school, engineering, construction management, criminology, education, like it's the sciences, the math, his social studies, like e almost every major under the sun, pretty diverse majors.
Coach, geographically speaking, where is Millersville located in Pennsylvania? Excuse me for my ignorance. I do know people have gone there, but I'm not familiar
No,
geographically where you're located.
it's okay. It's like it's not necessarily South Central. It's not necessarily if you picture what South Central is and what Southeast PA is, Millersville's like in the middle of that. Lancaster County's like right there. Like it's kind of in between Harrisburg and Philadelphia, and
Okay.
then a little south. So like, I can get to Maryland in like 20 minutes. So
Okay. Okay.
I still go to Phillies games. I've seen tickets to the Phillies, so I still go to Phillies games all the time. So
And you mentioned you're a Birds fan.
Birds, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles. Yep, born
Yeah.
and raised. So
It's it's interesting because where we're from, it's kind of that dividing line. Once you get like south of Ocean County, maybe even southern Ocean County, is where it transitions from the New York sports fans to all the Philly fans in South Jersey and South, Southwest Jersey
yeah,
or West Jersey. It's interesting.
there's all kinds of there's all kinds of confusion out of that short conference, man. They don't know and I say that just in a fun way. I mean, I have short
No,
conference
for
guys on the
sure.
team. I love those guys, and but it is funny. Some are Jets fans, some are Giants fans, and then the Jets fans are Mets fans. But like, there's that occasional weirdo that's a Jets fan and a Yankees fan, and that's my assistant coach, by the way. He's a Jets fan, is Yankees and a Yankees fan. He's one of like the seven in the world. Um, but yeah. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I can remember going to South Jersey States and wrestling and, not understanding why everyone was in Eagles gear during the playoffs time. And my dad was like, "Oh, you got to understand, once you get south of where Aunt Joan and Uncle Jack live, they become Eagles fans." And I was like,
Do you
"Oh,
remember how tough South Jersey State used to be?
oh yeah,
Holy moly, dude. Just to get I remember it was two qualifiers. That was it
yeah,
back in the day. Two
yeah."
qualifiers. And there was like 35 guys in your qualifying bracket and they only took top three. Like that was like just getting there was so tough. So yeah, South Jersey States was a lot of fun.
And I didn't think you had to wrestle back for second.
The true
If you,
second in the states you did. In the
yeah,
states
yeah,
you did.
yeah.
And this but not in the qualifier.
No, no,
If you lost in
yeah,
the
you're
quarterfinals, I mean
gone.
see you.
That's funny.
So yeah, they had that wrestle back to first for the states. Yeah,
Yeah.
they wrestled the guy twice.
Yep.
My seventh grade year, I lost in the South Jersey State finals, and then my eighth grade year, I won. So I lost to the same kid twice. My seventh grade year and my eighth grade year, I won. I got to beat the same kid twice. So
Down to Vineland.
it was violent both years.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
Qualified out of Woodbury, I think.
Okay. I
Does
think
that,
I
does
went
that
to
sound right?
Oakrest. I went to
Okay,
Oakrest.
I went to
okay.
Pylands for mine. And the states were in Absegami. And Rich, I know you got to follow up, but I'm going to derail the conversation
No, go
just to
ahead.
kind of add on to what Coach said. I remember it being so tough and feeling like South Jersey was like a different state and trying to figure out where half those kids went when I got into high school. Cause I was like, man, there were like, I won my qualifier and then I went, oh, and barbecue at the States. And it was not a fun ride home.
Yeah, I mean it is funny to see how those where those guys all pan out, you know what I mean? And I remember the guy who beat me that year, my seventh grade year. I remember him becoming yeah, he placed in the States when he was in high school. But the guy that I beat, I don't know if he moved or just kind of tapered off a little bit, but my eighth grade year I beat a kid from Upper Township and I just never really heard it when we got to high school, you know what I mean? My freshman year I heard from him, but at, like later on in our career I just don't remember seeing him. But so yeah, it's funny how some guys just don't pan out, or and some guys, you know, go off and go off into the sunset and win some big things.
Yeah. Rich, one more. Coach, this is the second time we've had a conversation about South Jersey States. The first time was with Damian Hahn, and we were trying to figure out why was there a South Jersey States? Do you know by any chance?
I couldn't tell you. I don't. It's just what we did. Like I said, I wrestled for Washington Township, and like we went from the county tournament to the South Jersey State qualifier to South Jersey States, and then we went to Mawas. Like it's just what we did. Like I said, I was trying to catch up, so I was wrestling as much as I could, um, and it paid off. But I don't know why they had it. And then I know it. Like I think it stopped for a little while, and then somebody like an organization brought it back, tried to bring it back, and it just wasn't ever what it used to be. But it was it was a gauntlet, back
Hmm.
in the day, back in our day, as old as we are, I guess.
Rich, fact checked me there. It's actually the third time we talked about South Jersey States
Dave
because
Miller.
Dave Miller.
Yeah.
Dave Miller.
Yeah.
Yep, both of those guys I respect very well. Both of those guys, Dave Miller and Damian Hahn, both did a camp for me when I was coaching at Camden Catholic. Yep, both of those guys. So good dudes.
Coach, did you go to Siegel or was there any other clubs down there when you were coming up?
I wrestled for Siegel a little bit. I wrestled for Foxcatcher a little bit, believe it or not. And then when I got to high school, it became Team Renegade. Um, but I didn't do much of the club scene. I was kind of a three sport athlete. I wrestled, played baseball, and played football. Um, and then my junior and senior year, I ran cross country. Um, and I kind of regret. I mean, I don't say I regret cross country because I loved it. But I really loved playing football. But I was just small. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it wasn't because I wasn't playing because I was playing. You know what I mean? But uh, wrestling was too important to me, and I just didn't want to take a chance of getting hurt. And you know, like
understandable. Coach, talk about that crazy assistant coach that you said. I think he said he's a Jets fan.
he is. He's a Jets fan and a Yankees fan. He's
Okay.
miserable, man. He's a miserable guy.
Well,
I mean,
get into it a little bit. Who are your assistant coaches? What are their roles? We talk about that CEO role and being an
yeah.
administrator and being able to delegate and not micromanage. So what sort of things? Who gets to do the expense reports? Who gets to do the fundraising? Who's on the mat, running the practices?
Well, I'm the only full-time wrestling
Okay.
coach. So I do. I mean, I just do the
You do
majority of the stuff.
everything.
Just because I don't do everything. Ryan's a part-time assistant. He works at Penn Manor. He's a phys ed teacher at Penn Manor. His name's Ryan Whittle. He's a great guy. Even though he's a Jets fan. But he um Penn Manor and Millersville touch each other. Like he literally parks his car in our gym parking lot because he can just walk up to the high school, and because he knows he's coming to practice after he's done. So he does what he can. He runs our social media, things like that. That just so that's a weight off my shoulders. Um, he's younger than me, so he rolls a little more than I do. He's in his late 20s. I'm in my late 40s. Wrestling live with college guys is a little different than it was for 15 years ago. Um, but you know, the technique and the drilling and stuff. I run the practices. Like I facilitate the practice. There's a pace that I want the practice to be, and I just it's something I've always done when I was coaching high school, and I still do it. Just because I need something to be at a certain pace, and that's hard for me to let go. And I think I'll kind of always do that, even if I get a younger guy again like Ryan, or if I get more a full-time coach, if that ever evolves. And the technique, I get a guy that wants to do more technique because he can do it organically and not me watching, just watching what Penn State does, and trying to mimic that. Um, but so it would be hard for me to kind of completely let go of a facilitating a practice because like I need it to be at a certain level. I'm very intense when I'm in there, and a lot of loud music. I'm yelling, it's just a fast pace, and that's just where I need it to be.
Do you have a favorite aspect to your role outside of the X's and O's?
yeah, I'll go back to the relationships I have with the guys.
Mm.
It means more to me than anything. Um, just the connection I have with them, the trust that they have in me, the trust that I have in them. You know, from everything from the lowest emotions to just having a great time and laughing and joking around. You know, just knowing those guys inside and out is a really cool thing.
Go ahead, Jim.
Coach, you mentioned those relationships and how that's one of your favorite aspects of the job. And Rich and I know that that's where all the good stuff is. We know when we get text messages from athletes that we coached and they picked up on something we said to them or they were going through a rough time, and now as adults they can kind of see where that has helped them now in their life. How do you weigh and measure the performance on the mat, but hey, I know I'm getting through this kid, he's changing his lifestyle, he's doing better on the classroom? How do you kind of weigh and measure that?
I mean, I guess you kind of hope that they go hand in hand. You know what I mean? You hope that because you have that relationship with them, because they trust you, because they know you believe in them, they're gonna work harder and they're gonna run through a wall even more for you, and for their teammates. You know what I mean? And I think that I think that is the biggest part. But then again, like you said, like knowing maybe they're going through a certain struggle right now, and like, do I that that comes to a point, hey, is it I need to know him well enough that do we send them do we even send them out there? You know what I mean? Do we be, because we know him that well and we want, what's best for him, is it the right time to send him out there right now because he might not have his head on straight or whatever. And that's where having the depth helps, that we could put somebody else out there and, save that guy uh some anxiety that he didn't need in his life at that time or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think that, from both of those aspects, I think it helps.
How is the season going so far, Coach? I think he's 10-4 currently right now.
Yeah, we're 10-4. We've had some good wins. We had a nice PSAC win back in December. Um, we beat East Stroudsburg. We beat Bloomsburg back in November. That was a nice win. I mean, I know they're in a coaching change right now, so they're going through some things, but still, it was the first time we beat Bloomsburg, and like I can't remember how many years it was, but it was been quite a while. Um, and we just beat Grand Valley. They're ranked sixth in the country. Again, they're hurting. They were banged up. So were we. Both teams were kind of banged up. But again, that shows our depth. When two teams go out there and don't have their starting lineups, and we came out on top. You know, uh, so it's going well. I mean, it's just trying to stay healthy. We got a big PSEC grind coming up. We got a tough match coming up Thursday. We got Shippensburg coming up on Thursday, and then we got Pitt Johnstown and Seton Hill on Saturday, and then Kutztown the following Friday. So we're right in the middle of the meat grinder right now.
Yeah, I think it's important too to mention for the people listening that don't maybe understand the toughness that resides in the PSAC conference. In wrestling, I think it's important for people to understand like that four matches that you just read off is a pretty tough grind.
It is. It
Yeah,
is. It's what we look forward to. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I mean, we started the semester. We started the semester at the Franklin and Marshall Open, and we were the only non-Division One team there. So you got Ohio State guys on the mat, you got North Carolina guys on the mat, you got it's just Lehigh and Lock Haven, like it's just all Division One guys. It's just, and so we're there, and our guys competed, our guys battled. I mean, yeah, we didn't place anybody, but I have true freshmen going out there, you know seeing that, hey, I can compete at this level. I didn't win the match, but you know, I gave that guy everything he could handle. And some of those guys, walk off the mat a little ticked off, like I can't believe I struggled with a Division two guy. You know what I mean? So, so it's good. Our guys wrestle hard. It's proud of them. And then like I said, we went out and wrestled Gannon and Grand Valley and Fairmont. Gannon beat us. Gannon's they're tough, top to bottom. They don't have any holes. and they're very junior, senior heavy. They have a couple freshmen, but mostly juniors and seniors. Um, and then, we came back this weekend and had a little bit lighter of a load in our duels that we had. Teams that were not as tough as most of the teams we wrestled, but there's still good guys on those teams, and they came and they wrestled hard. But we were able to pick up 4 wins there, and it's been nice. But now we're ready. It's time to lock in and get ready for the big show, and that's what everybody's trying to do.
Talking about, you know, keeping guys healthy and that's it's such a physical sport, and I don't know if it's just because of how much coverage the sport gets more so than ever. But you've seen so many things pop up on social media. Oh, this person's out for the season. This person's out for the season. This person's out for the seasons. How do you how do you navigate the waters of getting guys ready, but also keeping them healthy?
It's it's one of the biggest challenges, to be honest with you. Um, like I said, we run an intense room. We run a really hard, we have a really hard training regimen. But I have to balance that, you know what I mean? Like there are times where I don't necessarily want to go super hard on a lifting day. That becomes more of a light roll day or a technique day. Today we had a really good practice, really hard practice where, we really got after it, but we lifted yesterday, so it's not a day that I didn't really worry about that. So it's all about like managing that and navigating through how hard we're working throughout the week. Um, am I giving them the right rest? Are they do they understand their bodies? You know what I mean? Are they, and again, going back to like we talked about like all the little aspects, and just making sure they're doing all those little things right because it all adds up. Are they sleeping right? Are they dieting right? Are they hydrated? Because if you're not doing all that stuff right, then you're going to be more injury prone. You know what I mean? So it's getting all that stuff across to them and having them buy into the complete package of all those little things, and hopefully that helps. But sometimes it's just a string of bad luck. You know what I mean? Um, we've had this has been the weirdest year for all of my coaching years in terms of injuries. Like it just seems like we can't buy any luck when it comes to that stuff. Um, but again, from the beginning of the year, we stress how important everybody in the room is. Like nobody in the room is more important than the other guy, and all 30 guys have to come here working hard every day. We're not going to get to that next level if only the top five guys in the room are giving us everything they got, and the other guys are just there for the ride. So, like, all 30 guys are in, all 30 guys are locked in. And then when you have the struggles that we've had injury wise, and you're, putting out a lineup over the weekend that has third string guys. One match we had a third string guy wrestling up a weight class. You know what I mean? Like, and we're still pulling out dual meet wins. It's a good sign.
There's some of those things or those kind of because sometimes it can be, just freak things, wrong place, wrong time, foot gets caught in the tape in the mat or something. And then sometimes, as I'm sure all three of us on here know, sometimes it's your ego that gets in the way and you're fighting a little bit extra hard in a position where you'd probably just be better off
Bailing out,
giving up the two, giving up the three nowadays.
right?
Is it what are you seeing with it? Are they freak kind of things, or is it some situations where maybe you have to have conversations with the guys and say, hey, I know we're really trying to work hard, we're really trying to be tough and stingy with points, but sometimes in the room, you got to be a little bit smarter and not have that ego and kind of give up the position just to live to fight another day.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think in our situation, it's more the freak thing. You know what I mean? Like you're just, we had a situation on Saturday. Our most recent one is, you know, two actually, uh, our 165, one of our 165 pounders wrestling, and he has a kid on his back, and then they get in a little bit of a scramble, and as they get out of the scramble, they hit heads, and all of a sudden he gets wobbly and you can see him kind of just boom and he gets a concussion. Like he just had the kid on his back and like all of a sudden like the kid scrambles out of it and they hit heads. Like how does that happen? You know what I mean? And then in the next match, or the next door, our 84 pounders just he's on top of the kid. He's like a power half and the kid has his leg and they kind of rolled and they landed on his knee and it kind of you know tweaked his knee a little bit and you know we're dealing with that. It's so freak a lot of freak things for us this year. Just weird, just like I said, just weird. That's one thing after another. So Um, but we just battle the adversity, and that's another thing we talk about all the time is, you're going to handle adversity all the time. You go out in the match, you have to know that there's going to be some sort of adversity you're going to handle, whether it's a call you didn't get, whether it's a takedown you gave up, whether it's, you got caught on your back. You have to be able to anticipate and know how your body's going to how your mind and body are going to respond to those things. So, we do the same thing as a program. These injuries, while I don't want to like, you know, downplay the guys that are getting hurt because it's important for them to recover, and no one wants to see those guys get hurt. But they have to learn, they have to figure out, all right, how am I going to get back, and what the route I'm going to have to take to get back. I can't feel sorry for myself. I got to do the X, Y, and Z to get back on the mat. And the guys that have to step up, and that's the adversity we're dealing with as a program.
Who are the guys that we should keep an eye out for as we kind of, as you said, mentioned, getting locked in for the postseason and the championship part of the season? Who are the guys that we should be looking at? And you got any Jersey guys we need to be rooting a little harder for this, coming up into March?
Look out for all of them. Look out for all of them. Look out for everybody wearing black and gold.
All right, let's go.
But like we graduated those five guys from last year. So like, when you lose five national qualifiers, kind of you kind of reload. I don't know, I know it's kind of cliche, I don't like to use the word rebuild, because it sounds like it's something's broken, you know what I mean? Our program's in great shape. We're just young. We're just young right now, you know what I mean? So we don't like, we have a lot of guys ranked in the region. Um, we only have one guy ranked nationally. It's Taylor Robinson. He's a Williamstown kid. Um, one of our, he's at 133. Bryce Beatty at 125. He's a PA kid. He's been in and out of the national rankings. Nick Catone's a Jersey kid. He's our 141 pounder. Richie DeFovio was our 149 pounder. He's a freshman from New Jersey. He was actually ranked nationally, but he got hurt. And we're waiting to see if we can get him back before the end of the year. Other Jersey guys, look, I mean, Riley O'Boyle's one of our 197 pounders. He was ranked high in the region, dealing with an injury right now. We should get him back before the end of the year. But we have a guy there, Bruce Vaughn, that's filling in admirably. He's come up with some big wins. He actually took fourth in the region last year. So I mean, our heavyweight is very tough. I mean, he's ranked in the top three in the region, so he's got a shot to get the nationals. So like, it's it's all about having our guys ready at that time and getting out there. Other Jersey guys, our 184 pounder is Cole Du Bois. He's from New Jersey. He's a redshirt freshman. He's finding good ways to win recently. Um, our 165 pounder is a true freshman from Paulsboro. Chase Bish. He was a he was a state qualifier last year. 157 pounders from, well, now is a true freshman. He's a PA kid. So we're starting a lot of young kids. But I believe in them, and uh, we'll see what happens. Our 74 pounder is very tough. He was he's had a rough road. He's a local kid from Lancaster. He um he was ranked. I want to say he was ranked 10th in the country last year, maybe 12th, as a sophomore. I'm sorry, yeah, as a sophomore, and had a season-ending injury, and then he's come back this year, and he's battled an injury, a serious family issue that he was dealing with, and then he had a concussion when he was ready to come back. Like, this guy was just couldn't find any breaks. So, I'd like to see him, get back to where he was a year and a half ago, and kind of take a shot at nationals too.
Well, the future sounds bright. A lot of young
It do-
young pups.
it does, and we're looking to keep adding them, because we will have some key seniors graduating this year, so other guys are going to have to step up. Just having senior leadership, just it's nice, and then that's hard to replace. So guys,
Yeah.
really have to step up when those guys leave.
Coach, you mentioned watching out for the guys in the black and gold. Will they have robes on?
Nah, Nah, no ropes. I've flashed it out there a few times to like my assistant coaches, like, hey, what do you think? You know, because Iowa State sometimes breaks out their
Yeah.
robes, right? So like when those pictures come about, you know, like, what do you think? And they're like, no. But ultimately, I could make the call, but you know, I don't know. I like them, but I also like that it's a Camden Catholic thing. You know what I mean? And I like the tradition there, and I'm okay with leaving it there. You know what I mean?
All right.
Some things are better left at their origin. Nobody needs to copycat it. You know?
Right on. Rich, do you have anything else for Coach before we get to the Final Four?
I do. I have one question. Coach, you mentioned you have some boys that are wrestlers.
Yep.
Are they in high school?
So my oldest wrestles for me.
Okay. So he's in
My oldest is
college.
he's a freshman right now. He's redshirting, and he's doing very well. He's placed in a couple opens already, and he's beaten some Division I guys at some of the opens. So like he's really the red shirt year really is paying off for him. I have a sophomore in high school. He's ranked pretty high in the state right now. And then I have a junior. I have a junior a ninth grader wrestles on the junior high team, who is really turning the corner this year. Like he's really all of my kids have taken wrestling differently. Their bodies they matured differently. They pick up the sport differently. So you know I fathered them differently in terms of the sport. You know what I mean? They're not
Hmm.
like I was harder on some when they needed to be hard on, and then I was you know a little more guided the others when they need to be guided. And my ninth grader is someone that I said once it clicks, he's gonna get it because he's always been a kid that's studied the sport. He always wanted to do well, but it just his body just didn't, you know, he didn't have the agility or the or the strength to like kind of match what he wanted to do. And now it's starting to happen. So it's really cool to watch him. And then I have a 10-year-old who is very similar. He's just like, yeah, I like wrestling, but I like baseball. I like soccer. So I'm not going to run him around, tournament to tournament in the off season if he still wants to play soccer and baseball. So
Okay. You kind of answered my question, and I know it's probably difficult when you have a one on your roster, but for the younger boys, are you able to kind of just enjoy being a dad and not
I
maybe take your coaching hat off?
I do I do
Yeah.
I've had people like actually say to me like when I sit in the stands like I very rarely yell at while they're wrestling. I just enjoy being a fan of them. You know what I mean? And just watching them. I let their coaches coach, and I'll if I have to shout a couple things, maybe I do. I almost got thrown out of the region tournament last year for when my because the ref made it the most egregious call I've ever seen that ended my son's career. Cost him a trip to States. Um, but other than that, I've been pretty calm, and just enjoying being a dad. Yeah, I love that part. I love being able to decompress and just enjoy that part because the intensity part and the competitive edge and all that stuff comes out when I'm doing my job at the collegiate level. And, you know, being a dad's a lot of fun, watching your kids just enjoy the sport.
So follow up to that then, do you have any advice or tips for some dads or some parents who might not be at that point where they can just sit back and enjoy their son or daughter taking part in the sport of wrestling?
I mean, I guess the biggest advice I have would be like, if you want your kid to do really well in this sport, they need to love the sport. So just make sure you keep that part in mind that you're not doing anything that's going to cause them to hate the sport. You know what I mean? So just be mindful of that part. Just be mindful of, how you talk to them. How like maybe they don't want to go to a tournament one weekend, and you don't necessarily have to be like, oh, you're going to this tournament. I don't care if you want to or not. You know what I mean? Like you just gotta just be mindful of that stuff because the last thing you want them, if you want them to become, a college wrestler and achieve, you know, achieve high goals in college, they need to love it. You need to love wrestling in college. If you don't love wrestling, you're just not gonna make it
Mhm.
because it's too much of a grind. It's too daunting, and it's mentally and physically just wears you down. And if you don't love it, then it's just gonna you're just not gonna make it.
Amen.
Hey man, Coach, we could talk to you all night, but like you said, you got 4 kids, maybe 3 of them that are at home. One might be on campus, but we'll get you
Yeah,
out of
one,
here.
one is on campus. Yeah.
We'll get you out of here with the final four. So, first question I got for you: are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew your coffee, and how do you take it?
Um, Straight black drip coffee.
Right on.
That's it. Nothing special. Every once in
Co-
a while you see me. Every once in a while you see me with a Starbucks flavored coffee or something like that. But that's just every once in a while. But I'm every morning cup of black coffee.
Right on. We get down with that.
You
Coach,
guys, what
yes,
about
sir.
you?
We
Yes.
get
Black?
we're a little bit of hipsters over here, so we get fancy with it.
Hmm.
Sometimes I do pour overs. Right now, I'm in a cold brew kick. I know Rich likes to kind of like make like lattes with oat milk or fan. What do you got going on right now, Rich?
No, right now I'm just AeroPress with heavy cream.
Remember, I have 4 kids. Okay.
Yeah.
My morning, my
Efficiency.
mornings, my mornings don't allow for that stuff. So maybe that's why I drink black coffee. I don't have time to put sugar in it. So I guess that's why I drink black. So
That said, I do have a canister of Mount Hagen in the
Instant
cabinet.
coffee.
So I do some instant coffee from time to time, Coach. I don't have any children, but I do need to get out the door sometimes. And that,
oh no, it's drip. I do drip coffee, not instant. I don't not instant
yeah, no,
coffee.
I'm
No,
saying
I
I do it just to get out the door sometimes because that
okay.
ten
I got
minute
you.
brew
Okay.
process. Yeah. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Jerry Boland?
Get up at 4:30 in the morning to work out.
Okay. You lifting, you
It's just
running,
what
what are you
it's
doing?
just what I do. A little bit of everything.
Okay.
Mostly lifting like workouts like that. Um, you know, full body workouts, upper body, lower body. Today I did a lower body workout. Um, yeah, it's strength training. I usually do strength training, 4:30 in the morning. Um, and it's just it's a habit, and it's kind of told my guys like, when you create good habits, yeah, it just has to be what you do. Pick one thing that you want to be good at and just make it what you do, because it's going to make you better, and then it's just a habit. So like, I don't even think anything of it. I know I could go to bed at 1 in the morning, and I know I have to get up at 4:30 because I'm going to work out. I don't go to bed at 1 in the morning, but I'm just saying I would still do it. You know what I mean? Um, because it's a positive habit that I've developed, and again, you talk about being the best version of yourself. It starts my day off.
Yeah.
So
Coach, before you hopped on here, Rich and I mostly was talking about being old and how I have to change my training habits and kind of don't recover as fast as I used to. So I'm just curious, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, is there a warm-up process in there, or are you just jumping, hitting the weights, going hard?
nah, there's a warm up process. I usually drink like a glass of water, and then I shouldn't say this on the air, but I do take a light pre-workout. You know what I mean, just to kind of get me going a little bit. Very limited ingredient pre-workout, just a little caffeine in there, and then my wife and I will sit there and we'll watch the news for a little bit for about a half hour, 15, 20 minutes, and then we're working out. So she works out too.
Right on, respect. Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Um, Atomic Habits. Have you guys read that?
Haven't read it.
That
I've
that
Haven't
heard
that
read it.
about
I'm
it.
familiar of it. Yeah.
that's the book I'm finishing up right now. Listening to I don't listen to as many podcasts. I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts recently.
Thank you.
Um, but other than that, I don't listen to as many podcasts as I'd like to. Um, music wise?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have pretty wide variety of genre of music. Which I think my guys appreciate because I let like different guys jump on aux, and I can handle it to an extent. And I'm like, we're not working out this today. It's not happening. But most of the time, I'm okay with them being on aux every once in a while. But again, I run a high energy practice. So I need that pay. So a lot of times, good music, it doesn't necessarily translate to a good practice room, because they may not see it, but I know it's happening. I know the pace it does go hand in hand with the the beat of the music that's playing, you know. So, but yeah, I can listen to anything.
So when you want that energy up, do you have a certain playlist you get in with some Van Halen, some AC/DC, stuff like that, like old school traditional wrestling music?
Um, Depends. I mean, it depends on what kind of energy I want. So like the day before a match, when I know they're, you know, getting down the weight and they're kind of grumpy and they're running on fumes, I kind of I'll put like Katy Perry radio on or something like that that kind of like has just fun music that kind of just, you know, gets them feeling a little better. But yeah, fast-paced music like for regular practice, you know, a little mix of hip hop, a little mix of like hard rock, a little mix, you know, just music that just, you know, that has that has an energy vibe to it. So it's like I can't say specifically Metallica or specifically um whatever it's, you know, it could be Metallica, it could be Enter Sandman one, and then the next song could be a Kanye West song, you know what I mean? So it's just a playlist that I'll develop that I put that I think is going to carry the pace that I want.
Nothing lifts the spirits while you're cutting weight more than Miley Cyrus "Party in the USA."
Yeah,
They
yeah,
seem to love that.
California Girls with
Yep.
Katy Perry and Snoop Dogg is a favorite,
That's
you
a
know what I
good.
mean?
They
So
were they were dancing to that in fourth block in PE today. It's funny you say that. They were loving it.
yep, 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 it does the trick.
Yeah. Coach, last one we got for you. Could be food, maybe it's a beverage. We're talking music. Maybe you're a closet Swiftie. I know you're not a Chiefs fan, but do you have a guilty pleasure?
A guilty pleasure. I don't know if I do. I know that sounds goofy, and I would love to make one up, but no, I think I'm a pretty regular guy. Like I'm not. I don't think I'm super exciting. I don't have any skeletons in the closet or anything like that. You know, I mean, I don't know if I should say this because we don't know yet, but I'm a beer snob. Like
Nothing wrong with that.
if I'm gonna have a beverage, it's gonna be, you know, a good craft beer. You know,
Okay.
if somebody's offering me a Budweiser, I just give me a cup that the Budweiser was sitting in. I'll take that instead. You know, a cup of the ice. You know what I mean? But no, I'm a beer snob. You know what I mean?
Okay. IPAs? What do you
Yeah,
like? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm more of an IPA guy. Yep. Mhm.
Okay. All right. You get yourself some
But
Yingling out that way?
that's not an IPA.
I know, but I'm just saying it's in the area.
That's a
Old
little
Latrobe.
that's a little further west. That's a little
Is it
further
further
west.
west?
Yeah,
Okay.
The Trogs Brewery is not far from me.
Okay.
Trogs is not far from here. I've never been there, but I just know it's near here. But
Yeah.
we're getting
Awesome.
off topic. We're getting off topic there. But again, that's another podcast. We could talk that another time.
Well, you are in the circle of trust. We did because of COVID. We had a craft beer podcast that we did on the weekends with our cousins. I don't drink. I only drank for a month, and me and Rich got in a couple of wrestle matches in the streets of Denver. So I stopped drinking
That'll
for
do it.
that month. But
One bad experience that way. Yep, that'll do it.
yeah, so we'll get down with the craft beers, and we've interviewed a bunch of brewers and stuff like that. So all
That's
respect
cool.
there. But
That's cool.
Coach, when we're getting ready to do podcasts, when we're looking at guests, we always go on the websites of the colleges, looking up the coaches. And when we went on Millersville, I was like, I know that guy. I know that guy. And like I said to you before, grew up in that time when you were getting into coaching as an assistant, all those Comcast state finals, like that was like me like watching on replay. So always seeing your face, seeing a familiar face. It was awesome to have a conversation with you today and see what you got going on at Millersville. And I can't wait. Like Rich and I say this all the time. Our fans are probably sick of hearing it, but we have so many teams to watch and cheer for. It brings us back into the sport because when you don't have anyone to cheer for, it's kind of hard to kind of get into it. But when you have a little bit of attachment to it, hey, we talked to Coach. He's got some good kids, got some Jersey guys there. Can't wait to keep an eye on you for the rest of the season.
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you reaching out for the connection. What you guys do, like I said, I started listening to your podcast. I listened to a bunch of them already. So, I'm honored to be on here, and hopefully we cross paths again in the future.
Absolutely. We are honored to have you on, Coach, and we look forward to following not only the Jersey guys, but the Pennsylvania guys, the Maryland guys, the Delaware guys,
New
maybe
York, we got
New
New York
York
guy on the
too.
team
You know,
too.
we're
Yeah,
we're
wherever they
Point
come from, but
we're Point Borough Panthers, so we love supporting the black and gold wherever it is, and we look forward to seeing the rest of the success towards the final end of the season and into the postseason. Hope you guys get some qualifiers at nationals.
me too. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Make sure you give Millersville Wrestling a follow. Go give Coach and all the athletes, give them their support as they head into the championship part of the season. We will be back tomorrow. You know, we love wrestling. You know, Jimmy's a film guy, so we're going to marry the two tomorrow, and we're going to talk to you with our guests about a very special film that has been out recently covering the success of the Paulsboro Wrestling program. So we'll see you back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern